Your annual plan is a starting point, not a contract. You are allowed to pivot. You are allowed to simplify. You are allowed to change priorities. And you are allowed to evolve. Welcome back to another episode of the Quiet Leaders Podcast. Today's episode is a really timely one because we're heading in to that mid-year season where a lot of people start feeling one of two things. Either, wow, we've really accomplished so much already this year. Or, oh my gosh, we are nowhere near the goals we set back in January. Or if you do your annual planning in November, December, which would I recommend that it would be at that time. And if you're feeling the second one, I really want you to take a deep breath because today's episode is going to completely shift the way you think about goals, KPIs, momentum, and success in your business. And this episode is actually inspired by a mini training that I recently did inside my Molly Merce Integrators coaching program. And the conversation was so powerful that I knew I wanted to bring it onto the podcast too. Because your goals are not meant to trap you. And your KPIs are not meant to shame you. I know that's something I do often that I've been working on this year. If you go listen to my 10 lessons in year 30, you'll hear about that. And your business is allowed to evolve as you evolve. So today, I want to walk you through what I call a mid-year recalibration. How to evaluate what's working, what's not, and how to adjust without making it mean you failed. So the problem with how most people set goals, at the beginning of the year, there's usually so much excitement and momentum. We set these big annual goals, revenue goals, launch goals, growth goals, client goals. I mean, honestly, I love setting big visions. I do. But what happens is we create these plans in November or December based on the information we have at that time. And then real life happens. Priorities can shift, energy shifts, the market shifts, our personal lives shift, our clients shift, new opportunities show up, unexpected challenges happen. And suddenly, the plan we created 6 months ago doesn't fully align anymore. Now, this does not mean you failed. It means you're a human running a real business. And especially as integrators or strategic partners, part of our role is not just blindly following a plan. It's helping businesses respond to a reality while still moving towards the bigger vision. Now, that is leadership. Now, this is one of the biggest mindset shifts that I want you to take from this episode. KPIs are feedback, not rules. They are data points, not judgments. They are meant to show you what's working, what's not working, where you're currently operating, and what needs adjustment. That is it. I think sometimes we create goals and KPIs, and then we don't hit them exactly, and we immediately make it mean, I'm behind, I'm failing, this isn't working. But instead, we need to ask ourselves, what is this data trying to show me? For example, one of my clients had a goal of enrolling 10 people per month into their program. In quarter one, they averaged 5. Now we could look at that and say, oh no, we're only halfway there. But instead we asked, okay, what got us to that 5? What systems are already working? What messaging is resonating? What needs to be refined to get us from 5 to 10? Because the answer is not always work harder. Most of the time it's refine, simplify, optimize, adjust. So since we're in the middle of June, this is a great time to ask yourself some mid-year recalibration questions. So again, around June or July, I love doing what I call a mid-year alignment check-in with clients. You should also be doing this for yourself. So instead of focusing on What goals did we hit? What didn't we hit? I want you to evaluate, how does the business actually feel right now? And there are some key areas that I like to review during this recalibration, this mid-year alignment, and that are marketing, sales, retention, team, so if you have a team, client experience, revenue, offers, energy levels, capacity, and alignment. So again, you can rewind that to get that full list, because then what you're going to do is you're going to rank each area. So rank each of those from 0 to 5. 0 meaning this area is really struggling. 5 meaning this area feels amazing. Then you're going to ask, what is one simple action we could take to improve this area? Not a massive overhaul. We're not rebuilding the entire business. Instead, what's the next best move? Now, maybe marketing is sitting at a 2, and the next best move is finally running ads to your freebie. Maybe client experience is at a 3, and the next best move is simplifying onboarding. Maybe your team is overwhelmed, and the next best move is delegating recurring tasks. Simple, strategic, intentional. Now, I want to share a real example of recalibration that has happened with a client that I worked with last year. And we set some really big growth goals for their business. But as the year progressed, her health became the priority. And in that moment, the question was no longer, how do we force the original plan? Instead, the question became, how do we realign the business to support this new season? That is the kind of leadership I want you to embody. Not rigid leadership where we have to stick to the plan, have to stick to the goals, or feel like we're failing if we change or adjust. We're not forcing, and we're not going to hustle our way through burnout. That is long gone. And I'm sure that I will say the space now is reflecting this a lot more, so we don't have to say these as often, thank goodness. But sometimes we do need that reminder. But instead, we want this aligned leadership. Because sometimes the most strategic thing you can do is adjust the plan, which then leads to simplification, which creates momentum. Because another major theme that came up in this coaching conversation was simplification. And I truly think simplicity is one of the biggest competitive advantages right now, because people are overwhelmed. Businesses are overwhelmed, consumers are overwhelmed, our inboxes are overwhelmed. And one of my clients used to have this really long onboarding sequence with multiple emails and tons of information. And what we found was people were overwhelmed before they even got started. So we simplified it. Now they literally receive one welcome email with one clear start guide. That's it. And the experience actually improved. And I'm seeing this over and over again. People don't want more complexity. They want clarity. They want simplicity. They want that no fluff direction, because that's what makes them feel taken care of instead of overwhelmed. We're just giving them the only things they need to move forward. They want that direction. Because sometimes we think adding more creates growth, which goes back to my episode last week about not needing more offers, because we may think we need more offers, more automations, more emails, more steps. But often, removing things creates more momentum than adding them. Now, this is also where the shift from task doers to strategic partner really happens. A task doer waits for instructions. A strategic partner observes patterns, evaluates data, and helps guide decisions. Instead of waiting for your clients to say something feels off, you bring the insight to them. You say, Here's what I'm noticing. Here's what seems to be working. Here's where I think we need to adjust. That is leadership. That is value. That is what elevates your role. Now, your clients are definitely going to come and bring their own things because their brain works differently from us behind the scenes people. So you end up creating this beautiful partnership where they're catching things that you're not and you're catching things that they're not. So it is a two-way street here. You're not always doing all the strategy and all the data because they're the ones who are leading the vision. So they're going to want to know what they want the client experience to feel like as well. And finally, I want to really leave you with this today. Your annual plan is a starting point, not a contract. You are allowed to pivot. You are allowed to simplify. You are allowed to change priorities. And you are allowed to evolve. The goal is not to perfectly execute a plan that you created 6+ months ago. The goal is to continue moving toward the bigger vision in the most aligned, sustainable, and effective way possible. And sometimes that means adjusting the strategy. Sometimes that means removing things. Sometimes that means slowing down for a moment so then you can move forward more intentionally. So as we move into this mid-year season, I encourage you to ask yourself, what's actually working right now? What feels heavy? What feels aligned? What needs to be simplified? And what's the next best move? Not the next 50 moves. We don't want to get carried away here. Just the next one. Because clarity creates momentum. And aligned action will always move you further than forcing ever will. And if you're listening to this episode and realizing that you're in a season of growth, transition, or recalibration in your own business, and you know you're meant for a bigger leadership role behind the scenes, I want to invite you to book a call with me. Whether your next best step is fully stepping into the certification program, or it's starting with the Integrator Accelerator to build momentum and clarity first, we'll figure out the most aligned path for you together. Because again, you do not need to build your business through burnout, overcomplication, or trying to do everything alone. You can build a sustainable, strategic business as a quiet leader. And it starts with getting clear on your next step. Now you can book your call through the link in the show notes. And I cannot wait to connect with you. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Quiet Leaders Podcast. I will see you next week.